the 11th month of 1918, an armistice, or temporary cessation of hostilities, was declared between the Allied nations and Germany in the First World War. Commemorated as Armistice Day the following year, November 11th became a legal federal holiday in the United States in 1938. In the aftermath of World War II and the Korean War, Armistice Day became Veterans Day, a holiday dedicated to American veterans of all wars. Yesterday was Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a day of remembrance, a day for us to honor the brave men and women who have fought to preserve our freedom. In Radnor, we're blessed to have many examples of those who have heard this call and have served in one of the branches of our armed service. Today we have some of our honored veterans with us. I would ask that our honored guests rise and that you join me in a round of applause to thank them for their service. Remove your hats as the Honor Guard presents our nation's flag.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Good morning, everyone. About a week ago, I sent out a call and I asked for students to answer the question, what does a veteran mean to me? And I was so impressed by the responses that I received, from the wonderful poetry to the beautiful artwork that's there displayed. The words that students captured are youth. When you think about it, are the most important words that we live by, because it shows us that the narratives that they're receiving are meaningful and that they have a longevity to them. So it is with great pleasure and honor that I present to you our two winners. Our first place winner is Alexis Fry. Please come up, Alexis. And our second place winner is Anush Pajori. Now, before I give you the opportunity to hear these wonderful poems, I just wanted to tell you that the way I read them, I had the names covered and so forth, grade level covered, and when I was done, I was just so amazed at the way they capture words and how they express themselves that when I looked at it, I said, oh, this is a student here, Alexis is a freshman. of our 9th grade class, and then of course Anush is a senior in our 12th grade class, and both of them answered that question in such a way that was remarkable and honorable. So what I'm going to do is give this mic to them and have you listen to what they're saying here, because their words again convey a narrative that's essential for us to listen to, and that again provides that remarkable thing that we need to hold on to, and that's the hope and the understanding and appreciation of what has come before us and who has come before us to allow us these liberties, these freedoms that we have today. So without any further ado, I'd like to present Alexis.
What is a veteran to me? Someone who no one can disagree, holds honor to the highest degree, fighting the fights we never see, through times both bleak and eerie. Once nearby, we cross the deep blue sea, answering our desperate pleas. So now we celebrate, both you and me, these noble, brave honorees. So do not fret, do not flee, all their sacrifices a guarantee, despite troubles unforeseen, that we can remain a land of the free.
Who an American veteran is to me. A veteran emulates the dawning day I awake to each morning. The effervescent sun awaking to ascension in the sky. A breath of fresh air that circulates my existence. My freedom to walk through the doors before me. A veteran acts as a guardian, our protector and savior, willing to sacrifice, dedicate their life for us. Fight through thick, thin, thoughts never capitulate. Altruistic traits giving us the comfort of our country. A veteran exists as a foundation for prevalence, the honor of a man, upheld the merits of long ago, surpassing expectations, bestowing blessings of time, bearing the pain, allowing the innocence their indulgence. A veteran is a hero, a soldier, a fighter, yet ultimately a person, a human, a man, a woman, a band of brothers and sisters, a family, a force. The fallen departed, yet never forgotten, they all stand tall. A veteran, a valiant individual, worthy of praise and respect, who I'd like to thank today. The rising sun forming rainbows after a rainy day, you are greatly appreciated.
At this time, all students who participated, I just want to say in the contest, at the end of our assembly, please come up and I'll give you a certificate of participation. Both Alexis and Anush will receive Wawa gift cards along with their certificate of appreciation and participation in this event. Okay, thank you.
Tour and students. And now I have the distinct pleasure of introducing one of our hometown heroes, Lieutenant Colonel William Bonelli. Lieutenant Colonel William Bonelli is a 97-year-old Radnor resident and a retired member of the U.S. Air Force. He was a survivor the attack on Pearl Harbor that forced the United States into World War II. At this time, we will watch a brief video on the life and service of Lieutenant Colonel Bonelli.
Lieutenant Colonel William Patrick Bonelli dedicated 53 years of his life serving our country. From an aircraft mechanic in Pearl Harbor to a squadron lead pilot in Italy to serving in England during the Cold War, where he was certified to deliver the A-bomb, Lieutenant Colonel Bonelli is an excellent example of the sacrifices made by our veterans. I was lucky enough to sit down with him earlier last week to learn more about his incredible life and, of course, that fateful day in December of 1941.
Why did you decide to go into the military?
Well, 1940, 39-40, there was one big depression. There weren't any jobs. And I remember leaving home with only a dime in my pocket. And finally, I walked into the recruiting office and said, I will join up if you can get me near airplanes.
So is that why you picked the Air Force, because you like airplanes?
Yes, I didn't want any part of the Navy. The ships are too much of a target.
So how old were you when you joined?
I was 19.
Did you expect World War II to start when you joined?
Of course, it was obvious that there was no getting around it. It was just a matter of when.
So what do you remember about the morning of the attack on Pearl Harbor?
First, I would like to back up and talk about Saturday evening. And I like to tell this one because this is factual. Army Air Corps had a recreational facility on the north side of the island. So we decided to go there to spend the night. This was late Saturday night. On arrival, it was a flop. It was only a barracks. There was no messing facilities whatsoever. But when I noticed a black car on the beach, and I got close to it and I could see 4 heads, 2 up front, 2 in the back. They weren't in any compromising position or anything like that. I stopped. Matter of fact, I began walking backwards. And then I noticed 2 big antennas on the rear of the bumper, each corner. I felt something sinister. And I hurried backwards, turned around, and ran as fast as I could. Then I got behind a palm tree and see if anybody was chasing me. Nobody was. Then I went to the barracks and spent the night, and we got up that morning, headed to Hickam Field for breakfast. But I want to point that incident out because only 5, 6, 7 years ago did I learn that General Marshall, or I think it was, Chief of Staff at the time, sent a message to Kimmel, Navy, Short, Army, Army at the time, to anticipate activity. Here I am just in the Army Air Corps mechanic. I didn't have that information. Had I had that information at the time I saw that car on the beach, I can't help but believe I would have been breaking General Short's door down. Sunday morning, we departed about 7 o'clock and approaching Wheeler Field south, nearing Pearl Harbor itself. 3 Zeros flew overhead, and I said to my buddies, I wonder who those airplanes are. I could see the rising sun on the side of the fuselage. And I've never seen those before. And I said, you know, we might be at war, jokingly. No kidding. But in about 3 or 4 minutes later, it was no joke. We rushed into Hickam Field, which Hickam Field is right adjacent to Pearl Harbor. And I was a mechanic on the B-18, the O-47, and the B-17s that are beginning to come in at the time.
Did you suspect that we would go to war with Japan?
Oh, yes, indeed. But that's one of the reasons why I signed up, is Hitler was on the move, and he was grabbing up territory all over the place, and it was very obvious. And the Japanese, as I mentioned a moment ago, was turning the Pacific Ocean into the Japanese lake. But I didn't expect Hawaii to be involved. That was far, far from. But had I had that communication, it would have been a different story.
So what was it like in Hawaii the days after Pearl Harbor?
Things were calmed down. I had anticipated that morning local activity. I think Yamamoto, admiral of the Japanese fleet, made a second mistake by pulling all of his troops out. I anticipated that there would be street to street, corner to corner fighting. And I was already loaded up with a rifle, and I had rifle bullets over my left shoulder and my right shoulder, and I had a 45, and my pockets were full of 45 bullets, and I was waiting for them, but they never showed up, and I couldn't believe what a blunder on Yamamoto's part. Two blunders in a row, one for attacking and one for cleaning out his troops. We didn't have to do it. Had he left a couple of troop ships loaded with the kamikaze mentality, he could have increased or doubled the fatalities.
How did you spend the majority of your time in the war?
Pearl Harbor was 41, 42. They reorganized quite a bit in the Army Air Corps that I was with. And I ended up in an organization that was deployed to Fiji Islands. I have to admit that I was very depressed simply because my application for flying cadets back in Honolulu, back in Hickam Field, no action was taken on it. And now here I am in Fiji Islands. I gave up all hope of ever seeing the mainland again.
A chance encounter and an act of kindness changed the course of his life for the better.
An African-American warrant officer, that's a grade in between enlisted rank and the officer rank, had come down to the runway or the hangar and look and look and look and look. Finally, after 4 or 5 days, I went over to him, and knowing full well what he's going to do, I said, "Would you like to see the airplane?" And boy, his enthusiasm went out of this world. So I decided he should get the royal treatment, which I did. I took him around the airplane, inside the airplane, all the gun positions, the Bombay and what have you. Took him in the nose of the aircraft.
The warrant officer was so grateful for Lieutenant Colonel Bonelli's willingness to let him see the plane that when he discovered that he was waiting for the approval to fly, the officer made sure his application made it to the top of the pile. And in no time at all, Lieutenant Colonel Bonelli was on a boat back to the mainland, and he'll tell you what a great feeling that was.
And I don't mind telling you, I cried like a baby. I have a chance. I have a chance. I have a chance.
He had more than a chance. He was accepted into a rigorous training program to become a B-17 pilot. He eventually made captain and flew 30 missions over Italy, 21 as squadron leader. On his second combat mission, he narrowly missed being the victim of a piece of flak that came right up through his seat in the cockpit. Over the next 10 years, he graduated from aircraft maintenance school at the Chanute Air Force Base, became both an instructor and officer in charge there, and had oversight over all aircraft and engine training for the United States Air Force. And during the Cold War, he not only was a pilot who was certified to deliver the A-bomb, but was also a maintenance control officer for 85 fighter bombers and support aircraft. He retired from the military in 1960 after serving 20 years, and he went on to become an airspace system inspection pilot and instructor at the Federal Aviation Administration. Lieutenant Colonel Bonelli retired from the FAA after 33 years of civil service.
How did you feel that your military career affected your life?
For me, I couldn't have asked for more.
So what advice would you like to give to high school students, just in general?
Luck has a lot to do with what you end up doing. However, luck is of no use if you don't position yourself to receive that luck, if If I'm making sense, does that make any sense to you? I was making bad luck for myself at Pearl Harbor, and it dawned on me that if I'm dumb enough to make bad luck, why can't I be smart enough to make good luck for myself?
To show our gratitude for Lieutenant Colonel Bonelli's service and to commend the service of all of our veterans, we ask that the Radnor student body give to the Radnor for Veterans fundraising drive and raffle next week. Please join me now in a well-deserved round of applause for Lieutenant Colonel William Patrick Bonelli.
Bonelli to join me here at the front. Mr. Bonelli, as a token of our gratitude for your service, we present to you this book on the life and service of the first President of the United States, George Washington. A copy of this book will also be dedicated to you and maintained in our library here at Radnor High School. All right, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in one last round of applause to thank Lieutenant Colonel Bonelli.